Hey, this is Bishop Jackson on Affinity Extra, where we do extraordinary things, and we're on the show, the Rock Solid Show, the Rock Solid Show. Listen, this is the great month. As we're moving into the month of May, this is my birthday month. It is the best month of the year. As you know, all the rest of the months pale into insignificance. So, on our show, we're talking about strange fruit. Strange fruit. You know, Billie Holiday, many years ago, this beautiful woman who sang that song, she reminded us that the bodies that were swinging in the trees, those strange fruits, were lynched bodies. And I gotta get into it straight away because I want to feel that there is some sense of anger amongst our community, that there is this corporate model of lynching our people. What do you mean, Bishop Jackson? It's like death has become an intimidatory force against the community. Not just intimidation, not just threatening, it means death also. And so this is the challenge that our young people, our children have, that authority is being rebuked by our community because we feel like there is no equality before them, there is no equity, there is no equal standing before the law. Part of my thesis when I looked about inequality is unequal before the law, and I looked at the power of money, the power of prestige, the power of ethnicity to get you more equal before the law. Such as like if a black boy and a white boy stand before the court, same age, same background, same academic qualifications, one will be given mercy by the courts and the other one will be having no mercy by the courts. And so there is this context of over incarceration of our youngsters. Not that we are condoning when they do things wrong. We never condone that. But what we are saying is that the proportionate structures of justice need to happen. So in our Rock Solid, we are reflecting on the conversation that James Cone had when he looked at the cross and the lynching tree. We are connecting also the oppressed. And so in Matthew 8 and verse about 28, and Mark chapter 5, we see Jesus meeting in this community, in this Afro-Asianic community, a madman, as they call it, somebody going through a mental health issue. And the way how Jesus handled this mad so-called man who was in the tombs, who was tormented, gives us an insight into how the body of Christ must act when people go through emotional turmoil. Sometimes we don't know how to act, and we've got to start looking at what are the biblical models of care. So the strange fruit is not only the fruit in the lynching trees. The strange fruit is that some of them are alive and moving around us, but we have no mercy upon them. So our community, the Afro-Asianic community around Jesus, this Hebraic community, they shunned people with mental health issues. They thought it was a demonic action and it needed to be shunned from their communities. But Jesus found him in the tombs and he rebuked the demons out of him, sent them into the pigs, and the pigs run across the fields, across the cliffs, and they fell off. And the people were so worried, so frightened, because they were so used to this being a part of their life that they asked Jesus to leave. That's crazy, isn't it? Jesus heals, and then they ask him to leave. Now, as your bishop, I have to focus on a couple of things that we were talking about. We were talking about the challenge of the George Floyd death that happened in our eyes, because sometimes, you know, when you look at how deaths have happened in custody and deaths have happened with police presence, they're always just immediately around the family, or small clips can be shown to the family immediacy. But the George Floyd situation was a brave young woman who kept filming when the police or the authorities told her to stop. And you could hear people crying out, and when you sit watching it, you think he's gonna take up his knee after about 3 minutes. He is gonna take up his knee. But when you see it and you continue to see it, you see that there is a vicious, nasty look I am telling you, I saw the look on Derek Chauvin's face, and it felt to me like he was devoid of mercy. Something in him told him that this is what this man deserves. He did not see him as human, because if he did, he would have responded differently to a body that was perishing below him, that was asking for his mother, that was praying, that was asking others for help, and he could not get the help. It is so harrowing. Also, I reflect on Doreen Lawrence's and Neville Lawrence's long story of challenge that brought them to a point where they had to wrestle with the authorities for the innocent death by the hands of racists in London to get justice. One of her comments has said that the Metropolitan Police may want to give up, but I will never give up. I will never give up finding justice for my son. And I think that was such a poignant thing. I think also when we look at Emmett Till, which the words of Emmett Till's mother, in the words of Cornel West, is the highest level of humanity that the world has seen. When she saw her son, she did not decide to close the casket, but she kept the casket open. Dr. King came, and all the seniors of the civil rights movement came and saw his body, and they wept tears, bitter tears. And when she collapsed when they saw the damage to Emmett Till's body. Emmett Till is a story about a young black man who was accused of whistling at a white woman. And then the white supremacists and clans caught him and decided that they were going to teach him a lesson. They dragged him behind a truck, they lynched him, and they shot him, and they threw him in a lake. And that's why his head was swollen, his body was swollen, and his head was swollen a few times larger than its original size. And when they saw that the tragedy of having to sew his head together, when they shot him in his head and blew his head apart with their rifles, they had to sew his head together to get it in one piece for it to go in the casket. And Emmett Till's mother said, leave the casket open so people can see the injustice that they were going through. And this is her saying. She says, I haven't got a minute to hate, but I will seek justice for the rest of my life. What humanity, Dr. Cornel West says, what humanity. And I think that we need to look at this in a strategic way to stop accepting that because the character is not perfect, that they do not deserve justice. Because even when the characters have no criminal action in them, they still deserve a trial, a jury, or if the boy is wrong or if the man is wrong, they still deserve a trial and a jury. But somebody decided, white supremacist structures decided that boy, that girl, that man needed to die or to be punished severely. And from colonial structures that we see, and also from slave structures that we see also, we see that there is this wickedness of over exaggeration of punishment to create a fear in the heart and the minds of those who witness the punishment. And that was the reality of it. When the punishments came to Africans who were captured as slaves in the Caribbean, the punishments were to teach the other slaves how not to rebel. So there's this chopping off of the foot. There is this maiming of the slave, the beating of the slave, the buck breaking of the slave, the abusing and the raping of slaves in front of their families. Male slaves would be raped in front of their families by the overseer so that they could see who has the authority. Also, the slaves were sat in the dockside and they were made to defecate in each other's mouths. They were also made to urinate in each other's mouths to show who was in charge. These are documented. And when you look at the documentation of this, it was said in a way of pride and joy and happiness that this is how we break slaves. And how sad it is that even today, there seems to be this challenge in our community that we are pushed against the wall and we are intimidated by these incidents. And I feel that this is a drip case, or, like something when a tap drips. It feels like the tap is dripping so much that the sink is about to overflow with our fear factor of our youths and our children and our communities. That on each occasion, strategically, there is a wicked act towards us, but there is resistance. And every time we look at their resistance, James Cone, when he talks about the cross and the lynching tree, he also reflects on the fact of, and I will show you this, I can show it on camera as well, the cross and the lynching tree, and also the other book, which is God of the Oppressed. I love these two books. And what James Cone was reminding us, that in all these things, there was this context of covenant with God. There was this context of connection with the suffering of Christ. There was this context of Jesus leaning towards the poor and the oppressed and standing with the oppressed. And so when James Cone talks about the cross and the lynching tree, he has a chapter that talks about nobody sees or nobody did the trouble I see or sees the trouble I see. And that was the slaves talking about how the world around them could not see the trouble that they were going through, but God did. That Jesus died in this brutal way on the cross, and Jesus emphasized his looking for the oppressed, because in the context of Christ, he sees the oppressed as his own. He saw the man in the tomb as his own, not a stranger. He saw him as a brother. He saw him as a part of his family. Therefore, he leaned towards him in his oppressed state. And that's why it is important for us to understand this. Race is a construct of white supremacy. It is a made-up construct that divides brothers. Because if there is no other race than the human race, then human brotherhood demands that we treat each other righteously. And so that's what Dr. King speaks about, and he says when justice comes, justice must roll like a river. And this context that we have here of these bodies, these strange fruit, we come back to Billie Holiday's song. It tells us today that no matter what happened, no matter how much force was brought in by the evil of the oppressor, the arc of the moral universe is long, Dr. King preaches, but it bends towards justice. Truth crushed to earth has to rise again. And so, listen, I am not going to explain to any group of people who I am in terms of my ethnicity to explain that I am equal to you. I live in equality. I live as an equal. I stand as an equal. I speak as an equal. I do not make an excuse. There is no situation that we find ourselves when whiteness has to explain itself as equal. It is always us. We are always fighting for our rights, because our rights can get eroded in any moment. But please remember that we are a people who have not given up. Regardless of the fight, there has always been a resistance. And I'm not talking about pockets of resistance. We are a people of resistance. And so don't let the story of the oppressor become the story of history. We are history. And the structure of what I come from to tell you today is the strange fruits in the trees, the cross and the lynching tree, as James Cone reflects for us, reminds us that God is the God of the oppressed. And Jesus, on every occasion, sees a woman with an issue of blood. That means that she's not accepted in their community. A Gentile woman who comes from Syrophoenicia, who is not Jewish, comes amidst them. Jesus heals her daughter and shows them that, yeah, she's a dog to you, but she is my child. Never have I seen so much faith as this woman, he says. He's changing the narrative, and today we have a changed narrative. So what am I saying to you in this Rock Solid? I'm saying to you that now we need a new vision for our families and our communities and our young people. On several occasions, I've heard over the last few weeks of young people under the age of 20 dying quickly in knife crimes and crimes on our streets. Gun crimes, knife crimes. And it seems to be the only way that our community comes on the news in the Midlands is through death. I want to tell you that we have different stories to tell. We have stories of life. We have stories of hope. We have stories of not survival. We have stories of thriving. And so I want you to now not only remember the oppressed, not only remember those who are the broken, not only remember those who are damaged and fractured, but yes, remember those who are not damaged, not fractured, those who have great families and great strength in our community, and pull our understanding together that we are not homogeneously one single thing. We are dynamically diverse. And we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And we do not need to find any other ethnic group to explain to them our own greatness. Let us live in our greatness. So what does Marcus Garvey tell us? He says, "Up ye mighty people up." So this is a story or a final thought for you today on Affinity Xtra, on my Rock Solid show, to say the strange fruit are remembered by God. The damaged bodies are seen by God. The blood cries out as strong as Abel's blood cries out. And God will, no matter which judge tries to lie, God will, no matter which jury tries to cover it up, God will, no matter who tries to hide justice from us, justice will be revealed. Because as Dr. King says, truth crushed to earth will rise again. God bless you. This is Bishop Jackson on Affinity Xtra saying I'm over, I'm out. Please make sure that you click subscribe and share our visual presentations as well. And please listen to our shows and let the hosts know what a great job they're doing. We're going further. We're going beyond. We're going to be like Star Trek, you know. We're going further and beyond. We're going into territories that we have not seen before because we are creating a new media narrative that speaks life to our people. Hey, this is Bishop Jackson saying good day to you and God bless you. Take care.
Visit us for updates and shows at affinityextra.co.uk.